Okay, welcome back to the Happily Different podcast, where we unpack the interesting and unorthodox ways people approach their businesses and their lives. The mission of this show is to learn as much as we can from people who weren't afraid to go their own way. My name is Ryan Jaskowitz. I'm your host, as well as CEO of 12-5 Capital, a non-bank finance company, helping companies accelerate the progress they are trying to make in their businesses and in their lives. We have a great guest with us today. Today's guest is a Forbes 30 Under 30 award winner. Her and her product have been featured everywhere from ABC to New York Magazine. Her product, Yishi Foods, can be found everywhere from Whole Foods, Target, Central Market, you name it. She's worked with numerous Fortune 500 companies in her prior career and started her business while an MBA student at the University of Chicago. If you're a foodie, you've probably tried her Asian-inspired oatmeal. Lin Jiang, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Very excited to be here.
Thank you. Did I pronounce your last name correctly? I apologize.
Yeah, that's right. Lin Jiang.
Lin Jiang. Perfect. Okay. So as we jump in here, I was doing some research on you. And I try to do as much research as I can on my guests and see what I can find, and learn that you were born in is it the province of, what province were you born in? I don't want to, I'll mispronounce it. Shandong. Okay.
Shandong.
Famous for many things, but also famous for, at least in the US, famous for the beer that is exported, right?
Yeah, that's my city. So Qingdao is one of the biggest, is the biggest city in the Shandong province. It's known to be the beer city.
The beer city. That's what I learned.
Yeah.
And I've obviously had plenty at your average sushi restaurant in Chicago. But you moved here when you were 19 years old. And I believe what I read or listened to is it was inspired by a trip to New York. What was that trip to New York, and what was your biggest culture shock when you got here?
Sure. Well, a lot of culture shocks. So before I moved here, I was going to college in China, in Beijing. I was just enrolled in a very good university in Beijing, studying translation. And that was really a top-notch program in the country, where I was trained to be a translator for English, French, and Chinese.
Oh, wow.
But when I was doing that program, I realized everyone in my class had traveled internationally before, and I didn't feel, I had really the language talent. I did the program because my mom wanted me to study language. She thought it was good for a girl. I just didn't feel, language was natural to me, and I wanted to see whether I can practice this speaking. So I convinced my parents to let me do a trip to New York City. We had a very remote friends, family, ex-wife's kid that was living in New York. So that was my contact. And it was my, maybe my second time, doing, flying, an airplane. Oh, wow. Definitely
Really?
First time, flying internationally. Yeah. I grew up, just always lived in the same city and taking trains everywhere.
Right.
Yeah, I remember when I got on the plane, I didn't know how to do the seatbelt, how to fasten the seatbelt. Yeah, how to buckle it. And then the other people taught me how to. It was really funny. But I got to New York City, found a friend, and started really just exploring the city myself. It was a quick trip during the winter, but just during a short, a little bit over a month, I volunteered. I, made some local friends. I actually left my dad's friend's house and went to live as an Airbnb host. Made it into kind of an unofficial lease for the entire stay. And we shared a roof, and she has her own off-Broadway show company. She's our director. That was super cool seeing her running her show company, and being involved in some of the activities she was doing. And then when I had a lot of time, obviously, so I read books, just walked around. read news, but also I used some time to volunteer in a local soup kitchen. And I was
Oh my
actually a
gosh.
volunteer in the Jewish soup kitchen. I didn't know
Oh
at
my,
that time. I was like, this neighborhood, it's everyone's style. It's very
a little
consistent
different.
and
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, just me, being very, very uh, innocent or almost ignorant at that time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I had a blast, lots of fun. And I really feel, I was only studying English back then, and this trip made me feel it's language, whether it's English or other languages, it's a tool, it's a great tool for me to communicate with people from different cultures. And I
Yeah.
see, New York City. New York City is different from maybe most America, but I felt the great energy from New York City. I just felt this place has, lots of opportunities. And me being from relatively smaller city in China who never traveled anywhere, I
Yeah.
was really, yeah, amazed and wanted to leverage the English skill that I already gained to do something more practical. So I researched university and the admission process here, and realized, oh, I just missed all the admission deadlines. It was,
Yeah. This
um,
is all, wait, can I pause you for a second? This is all in
yeah,
in the 1 month you were there. Were you there for a month, you said?
a couple months. Yeah,
Couple months,
there
but
was, yeah.
all this happened in a couple months. So you go from
Oh, yes.
having been on a plane, this was your second time. What sounds like parents, we'll get into your parents a little bit, but sort of a protective parents. You came by yourself,
Yep, by myself.
landed by yourself at one of New York's finest airports, I'm sure. And all of this happened within a couple months. I mean, I hope you recognize how crazy that sounds to somebody like me.
Look, probably looking back, yeah, it felt a little crazy, but at that time, I was just 19. It was a great adventure. I was really
Right.
enjoying it, and it was also liberating because I was very stressed back in China, being in a program, very competitive program, not having the talent, also not having the experience that other people had, all this international experience. My English was just not good.
Yeah.
And the whole point was to speak great English. And also, we're picking up French, and I was really falling behind. Um, and so, I realized during the trip when I wanted to see whether I have an opportunity to study here, I realized I missed all the deadlines. It was
Yeah.
already, way past the deadline. But I found out a program that connects, it's by a third party education company. They connect international students and universities through their program. So they're embedded in some universities. But
Mm.
the caveat is that, you come here, they give you a test. If you don't pass the test, you stay in their program to study English, just do
English. Yeah.
English classes. So
Yeah.
that's how they trick a lot of international students. But
But you
at that
passed?
time, yeah, I thought that was really my only way to change university without delaying another year.
Yeah.
I didn't want to wait till the following year, so I applied for that program. Uh, applied to only two universities: University of New Hampshire and UMass Lowell, University of
Okay.
Massachusetts
Yeah.
Lowell.
Hmm.
Um, they both eventually accepted me. UNH accepted me first, so I decided to go there. I looked up their website; seems pretty legit. Before that, I never heard of New Hampshire.
New Hampshire for sure.
Um,
I know. That was going to be my question. Is like, how in the world does a young girl from Qingdao find herself in New Hampshire? Obviously, I mean, it's pretty wild to me. I mean, you're 19. I can see. I try to remember being 19. That was a long time ago now for me. But you're just sort of finding yourself, becoming an adult, and you happen to take this trip to New York. I mean, it's sort of a seminal moment, obviously, in your life that just kind of changes your life for good. What did were you sharing the details of your plans with your parents from abroad?
yes. So I, even till today, I text them all the time. If I make a good Chinese dinner, send them a picture, and we FaceTime often. So yeah, during that trip, I give them all the details about just the great trip and what I learned, and they saw that I was able to get along with people I met here. I was able to, take care of my life here. Because
Yeah.
they never traveled internationally before I moved
Wow.
here. They
Oh,
didn't.
really?
Yeah, they can't. No, and they can't speak English. My whole family, including extended family, all live in one city. We really didn't travel anywhere.
Yeah.
But they saw my courage, and to convince them to send me here for college, I really had to build a case for myself to, present these are the reasons why I'm going to study something more practical at a American university. These are the
Yeah.
opportunities that I think could be available after my
Right.
graduation. And this would be the path in China, and what my future would look like in China, which is pretty sad at that time. Um, I mean, my parents was definitely on board about the upside and the great future of coming to America, exploring opportunities, but
Right.
the cost was a big obstacle there.
Hmm.
My family is, I'm from a very humble family. My parents are both still working corporate jobs. My mom has had a corporate job, but my mom hasn't really worked for a long time, and now she runs a little shop.
Yeah.
So
What
they
did what
didn't.
did what did mom and dad do for a living? I'm just curious. I'm curious how, like, what did your dad do? What did your mom do? Obviously, it sounds like she raised you guys, but what's their background there?
So my dad's official job is a sales manager, local sales manager for a telecommunication company. So
Okay.
think Streeterville sales rep for AT&T. So
Okay. Got
that's
it.
the comparison. So she
Yeah.
covers a little part of the city for a big telecom. My mom studied law. She never passed the bar,
The
bar in
equivalent.
China. Yeah, the
Yeah.
equivalent in China. My grandfather, so my mom's father had a law firm. My mom worked there for most of her career, and then that law firm was closed when I was in middle school. So my mom was trying to find new things, and then my dad things since my dad works for this big telecom company. My dad said, well, why don't you do a little franchise, little shop? So my mom has this just a little space about this size,
Yeah.
um and a desk, a window, and help people pay for their phone uh
Oh,
fees
no way.
every month,
Really?
and internet fees. Yeah.
My
So
gosh,
that's
that's
my
wild.
mom's job. Yeah, now. um
Uh, were
and I
they
help
freaking out
out.
when you were telling them this stuff, like when you were coming up with these plans? Do you think, actually, my question actually is, do you think they knew when you were going to the US for this visit that there was a chance you might come back and say, hey, I want to stay?
I never discussed this with my parents, but I think deep in their heart, they probably had an idea because,
Yeah.
the New York trip was not the first time that I went on a venture and changed course. Um, and I feel, just in my journey so far, even when I was very young, high school, I went a completely different route from like the regular high school experience.
Okay.
Um,
What do you mean by that?
and So going back to high school, I didn't go to a high school in Qingdao. I convinced my parents, again, convinced my parents to send me to a very big, I would say, almost that type camp style,
Yeah.
military training style, camp style high
Like we
school.
might call it
Huge.
a boarding school here.
A boarding school, yeah. The boarding school in China is very strict.
Oh, okay.
I know
Got
the
it.
boarding school here. Yeah, the boarding school I was at, nothing good about it. It was in a rural area too.
Hmm.
So just think, back then, every day that high school, every day you get up at 5, and then you go to bed around 11. You
Wow.
study all day. There are mandatory physical activity like running,
Hmm.
but you're just studying and doing, all these program on time. Every day is like that, and you don't go home. And the physical condition is harsh. It's
Yeah.
harsh.
It was rough
Yeah,
on you?
it was very rough. I have actually scars on my,
Still,
yeah,
I bet.
scars on
Both
my
physical and
glutes and
mental,
my
I
butt.
bet.
Yeah, physical for sitting on a wood chair all day long, nonstop
Wow.
for too long. Yes, my butt was bleeding at that time, and
Oh
the
my
whole winter
gosh.
I couldn't stand. It was crazy, and I just remember, yeah, and as someone from still a city who speaks standard Mandarin, we were not really. There were a few other kids like me were not really liked by the local kids. The reason I wanted to go to that school was because, um, you know, they were known to send to I guess transform a lot of students. They were known for their good grades and sending students to the top-notch universities in China.
Okay. Yeah.
I wanted to, get a chance to get a better grade, go to a better university by getting their training. Um, I would say yeah, that place was an interesting memory. It was bad on me for a long time, you know, and I don't mind sharing this. I got eating disorder, very
Oh,
severe eating
really?
disorder there.
Oh,
Yes.
no.
By the time when I went to college, I was 5'7", but I was only weighing less than 90 pounds. Is
Wow.
that at that point, people see me, they would think I need to get hospitalized.
Yeah.
Um,
What
so
do
go,
you, I mean, if you do want to talk about it just a tiny bit, because obviously now you own a food company, so it kind of plays into a little bit, but was it that place that you feel like instigated that in you, or was it something you always struggled with?
so I never really thought about food and wasn't too self-conscious about my body image before going to that high school. And something that triggered it, I guess, the first thing is I was a teenager, and we started talking about, our body image, start caring about whether we're
Right.
skinny. So that's the environment. But when I got there, what really made me start doing it is just being being stuck and being a little depressed all the time.
Hmm.
Um, the environment was a very different change. I never seen that kind of environment before. Every grade we had, every class we had 2,400 people, and then it was
Wow.
very
Wow.
competitive. And it
Yeah.
wasn't,
Yeah.
yeah, and the local students, local kids were a little
Like you said, they didn't,
harsh on us.
yeah, a little harsh
They
on you.
still,
And
yeah, even my snacks got stolen, my money got stolen.
wow. Yeah.
And I guess there was also a jealousy that, you are from the city,
Yeah.
and you have these things that we don't have, so they steal
Right.
it.
Right. Right.
Um, and I was
I bet it
crying all the
was,
time. Yeah.
was it, I've heard it described this way. Do you think because you had no control at that school, this eating disorder was a way to have control over something?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's probably the most, essential, reason.
Yeah.
I just felt, I really had control of my own body.
Right.
And also partially there were a couple of girls that were, leaders of the class, and they were very they were targeting me all the time.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
thought, how can I, not lose this
Right.
game?
Yeah.
I don't want to fight back, physical or anything, but
Hmm.
I thought, well, I can have better grade than you. I can look better than you.
Look better than
So
you.
at that
Yeah.
time in my mind, part of the, if I look better than you, I should be skinnier than you. So
Yeah.
it all
Yeah.
played a factor.
Wow.
And yeah, and I would say ED itself, I just didn't really eat um, any type of ED itself. Based on my experiences, just once you get into it, just the psychology behind ED is almost like a black hole. There
Hmm.
are factors at the beginning that made me started doing that, and then over time, I just lost control.
Right,
Uh,
right,
and it
right,
was, yeah, that adds to the stress. So I was, that's why I said the New York trip was liberating. It was liberating on
right.
multiple levels. I felt,
Yeah,
I'm at a new place and nobody knows me. I
right.
can,
Start
yeah,
over. Yeah.
start over, eat whatever I want,
Hmm.
and not care about
Wow.
anything.
Well,
Yeah, so that was part of it. Uh, but I would say the biggest reason, obviously, that had drawn me to come here for education was the
mhm.
opportunity. Um, and I shared my plans with my parents. So to figure out the my tuition. Um, well, and my parents didn't agree first and didn't want to
Yeah,
lend the
that's
top.
what I
My
was curious
grandma,
with. I was curious.
my,
Well, first, let me pause and say thank you for sharing that
of
story a
course.
minute ago. That's very vulnerable and pretty awesome of you to be willing to share that with our listeners. And I actually think that'll help a lot of people. And just hearing somebody's story like that goes a long way. So, but I was curious whether your parents agreed right away. And it doesn't sound like they did. So can you give us we'll get to college here in a second, but give us a quick background on how that worked.
Right. Yeah. No, my parents didn't agree at all at first. They thought I was crazy. That's a crazy dream. Um, who entertained the idea first was my grandma. My
Awesome.
mom's mother, yeah, she's very forward looking, and
Yeah.
she hears my reasoning. She actually can't read; she's illiterate, but
Okay.
she watches TV. She hears other people's
Yeah.
stories. She's very reasonable, so she convinced my parents to support me. And my parents definitely didn't have the financial capability. So the entire family, my uncles, my grandma, everybody put
Wow.
together a little bit of money. And my dad, earlier said he has a future job. He always had a
Hmm.
side hustle. So my dad took out a bigger business loan for the side hustle, um, and to use that money to send me here for school.
Wow.
So as soon as I came here, I made sure I passed that test. So I
Yeah.
started college right away.
Yeah.
I started college actually in the summer, just cut in.
Yeah.
And I applied for scholarships and I won a merit-based scholarship
Awesome.
that helped. Yeah. Um, and also I, try to graduate as fast as possible. So I
Hmm.
graduated in 2 years plus one summer. I started in the summer, then had a summer at the end. So
Right.
I just want to really graduate fast as possible and start working. And I was very fortunate to receive a job offer before my graduation. And so, I thought if I went back now, I could find a job in China, but if
Hmm.
I go back after having some work experience in the US, then the jobs that are available to me in China will be a lot better.
Yeah, even larger, even
Yeah,
larger.
even
Did
larger. So I stayed, and then the rest is just,
history
not
from
as
there.
planned. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you did so if you graduated in 2.5 years or 2 years or whatever it was, which I was curious about that because I did read that as well. Um, I'm just curious, did you have a typical college lifestyle? I mean, or it seemed like you were probably pretty busy trying to graduate.
Yes, I was very busy. My college experience was very different. It's similar to actually my high school experience because, it was my first time coming to study in the U.S.
Mm,
I really brought my just, the study method and how I always study um, here as well, which means studying in pretty much all my free time. And for
yeah.
college, if you study all the time, you're definitely gonna get good grades, and you're still gonna have free time. So what I did was I wrote a letter to the dean to ask to take more classes than allowed. So I would take 3 or 4 in a winter, 5 in a normal quarter. I was just taking classes. Um, and always stayed in the library. I did some activities, I was an orientation leader, but it was all like uh, during summer and winter. Um, and the easier program that doesn't require my continuous support,
Yeah.
because I was
Yeah.
I knew that I had to graduate early.
Like I
Um,
said, it doesn't sound like there were many keg parties in your college in your college
no,
life. No,
no,
it
yeah,
doesn't sound like
my
that.
college life was very wholesome. Lots of
Yeah,
coffee.
lots of
Yeah.
coffee, I bet. Yeah, yeah, lots of good New Hampshire coffee. And one through line I've learned about you just in this short time is it sounds like you are pretty good at convincing people of things. You convinced the dean to let you take more classes. You convinced your parents to send you to New York. Convinced your parents. So I think that's a quality. I think you probably know you have,
Uh, I actually didn't think about it, but
huh?
um, yeah, I guess there's all these things that I want to do for my own goals,
Hmm.
to build to follow my own plan. And often these plans, whether it's school or, just coming to the US, uh, it's a little challenging or not uh, in the original plan. So
Hmm.
I just always have to tell a story and give reasons to achieve my goals. But I feel this is probably the same for everybody. If you want to do something,
I don't know.
should
I don't
probably.
know. Don't shortchange yourself there because I don't think it is the same for everybody. I think everyone has different qualities, but the ability to present your case in a compelling manner that convinces people to come to your side or agree with your opinion is a difficult thing. It's a pretty cool little trait you got there. So just really quickly before we move on a little bit, so you had a job out of college, Boston Consulting Group. What kind of work were you doing there?
I did market research. So what I did was I was supporting the consulting team, work alongside the consultants. Um,
Hmm.
to help them use, BCG's past knowledge. We had a big knowledge database, past cases similar to what they are doing for their current project, and then external research analysis to help them build their case. So,
Hmm.
I guess it's the easier way to think about it is for a storyteller, a writer who writes the consultant will be writing the framework of the story, um,
Hmm.
engaging convince the audience to come to read the story, sell the story, and we help them fill the details,
Details in.
and yeah, of the story.
Cool. Any interesting companies you work for that were a lot of fun?
Uh, so that obviously I can share specific names,
Yeah.
but I did all kinds of things. I even worked on internal cases. The most fun project for me was the internal case because that had a very, very direct influence, very direct result. Because
Hmm.
the project I did, BCG updated a policy
Oh,
across the whole
cool.
company. And so pretty much BCG was the client. Um, and I presented that project. That was
See, you
my fifth month.
convinced. You convinced again. See, you're
So
missing the theme here. This is who you are, the great convincer. That's got
thank
to be
you.
pretty good as I guess that would have made you what 22, 23 to have a
Yeah.
big win like that. That's pretty fun. So that's got to give you
Yeah.
a boost of confidence as you move your way to Chicago Booth School of Business, which is what brought you to Chicago and how we eventually met. How obviously a lot of people know UFC, and we don't have to talk about that too much. But how did it? Before we move on to your current role and what you're doing now, how do you think UFC specifically shaped your entrepreneurial journey?
It helped me explore the entrepreneurial journey in many ways. I think the most important way is that it really broadened my perspective on entrepreneurship. When I had a corporate job, everyone in my friend circle had a corporate job. We really don't know anyone that was an entrepreneur. We read about entrepreneurs, but you
Hmm.
know, um, seemed so far away. And after starting my MBA, in my first semester, the first class I took was a entrepreneurship class. It's called New Venture Strategy, to develop a strategy for entrepreneurial idea, and go-to-market strategy. So in that class, there were some real entrepreneurs, and the professor has worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, and they
Hmm.
started talking about framework structure. And I worked in a project. Um, Actually, it was my friend's project, and he's an entrepreneur in fintech. And just seeing what they're doing with their business, every day they're making their own decisions. They're designing their own day, their own business, and they see direct impact of every decision they make. Um, that just was really inspiring to me. And even when I was at BCG, I always had this little thought, in the back of my head. It'd be so cool if I run a company myself, so I can do
Right.
more, have more visibility of the entire organization. But I never really had an idea. Um,
Right.
Food has
Right.
always been a passion. Yeah, I thought about, potentially running a food. My grandma had a restaurant, but then it didn't feel realistic enough.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
After,
But what we've learned about
yeah.
you is a little kernel of inspiration in your brain goes a long way. So, as we transition to Yishi Foods here, which, as we mentioned, or as I mentioned in the beginning, is a Asian inspired oatmeal brand that you founded. Can you walk us through your inspiration through starting the business? Walk us through how you got started.
Yeah. So, well, during that class, actually, the very first class, I was inspired by the entrepreneurs, and I thought, oh, one thing I'm doing in my life that could potentially turn into a business. I was making uh, the Asian inspired oatmeal. I was creating my own oatmeal, and my friend and my old coworkers loved it, and some friends and old coworkers, they would occasionally say, "Oh, Lin, you should try selling this product. It's selling this. It's so good." So that just sparked, and I thought, well, maybe I can try selling this.
Hmm.
And at USC, I learned about Simple Mills. I learned about RX Bar. All these
Hmm.
successful CPG companies started in Chicago, and
Hmm.
Simple Mills was started at Booth as well. So their success stories also encouraged me to explore CPG.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm a passionate person. I sample my oatmeal with more people. I sample oatmeal at schools, at yoga studios. I did over 50 sampling events in 2019 to see whether there's traction. So that
Yeah.
was my like boots on the ground marketing approach, and got a lot of positive feedback.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
I just decided, well, okay, then
Give it a
let me
shot.
just keep going, give it a shot. Yeah.
Did you
So
did
that's the
you
story.
did you start it? Did you start? I guess going backward though, what inspired you to start making the oatmeal, or was it just something you made all the time, just something from home?
It's something from home. It's actually, one of my favorite oatmeal now. It was inspired by my mom's porridge. So growing
Oh,
up,
okay.
my mom was always very creative with food, and she made a very delicious black sesame porridge. I loved it as a kid. So when I was making my own oatmeal, I actually wanted to make the black sesame porridge, but I
Hmm.
wanted more nutrition, more fiber, more protein there. So I added oats, flax seeds, and just pretty much combined oatmeal and the porridges that my mom used to make. Um, so nutritionally, it's good, and then it's also just it's nostalgia for me.
Yeah.
Um, and when I started sharing that flavors, my coworkers, they were like, "Oh, this is Asian inspired, and do you want to do a bubble tea flavor? I love tart bubble tea." And one coworker said, "Oh, I love matcha," and then
This
I
is at
started
Boston. This
creating
is at
more
Boston
flavors.
Consulting Group, though.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. So this is
Yeah,
just you would bring it in to eat and try it. You'd bring it for lunch or breakfast or whatever it is, and people would be like, "What's that?" And then kind of inspired from there.
yep. Um, Yep. So that was the initial inspiration. After, coming to Chicago and through all the sampling events, I learned, I got feedback on the flavors, textures, and then eventually when we launched the brand, I took all the feedback and finalized the flavors, and we improved the recipe a few times. Yeah.
Cool. What did the first? One of my questions was, what did the first few batches look like? Not the ones you made. Not necessarily the ones you made for yourself or at Boston Consulting Group, but like when you said, okay, I want to try to make a business out of this. Obviously, that may change the ingredients a little bit or things like that. What did the first few batches look like, and like what were the challenges?
Yeah. So I guess the packaging, the real packaging went through a few different stages. So the first packaging I had was just craft paper bags I got from Amazon, and then I put a sticker on there. That's the easiest, and that's the packaging, the sample I showed to a local Whole Foods, and also, that's how we got into local Whole Foods back in 2020. And then I found out these online printers and started printing little pouches. We call it sachet pouches. This is the typical oatmeal format
Oh yeah,
you
got
see.
it.
Yeah, like the quicker. So you have these sachet pouches in a box. But very soon I realized the challenge of doing that from a supply chain standpoint. You need a lot of volume to justify the cost for producing sachets, and a paper box to cover that is just is not feasible for a startup. So I went for the single serving cups, which is a lot more doable. To be able to buy that packaging, I did a Kickstarter campaign, and that's still live. At that time, the company is called Crave Natural. It's not called Yishi. We're Crave Natural,
Yeah.
at the beginning of the journey. So I did a Kickstarter campaign to get some, pre-sales funding to buy official packaging. And that was a successful campaign. And once we got the official packaging, I loaded that into Whole Foods, local Whole Foods stores.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And so that was fall 2020. We were selling this Crave Natural cups at 27 Chicago area Whole Foods. I knew that CPG company, we just need more funding to grow our distribution. I thought it was capital intensive. Now I know, wow, this is a lot more capital intensive than I used to think. If you want to scale up,
Right.
so I started leveraging the early Whole Foods sales data and raised some angel investments. Once I have the angel investment, I made a decision to rebrand. So change the company name from Crave Natural to Yishi, which has a meaning. It means ritual ceremony in Chinese. And also the packaging. So the previous packaging for Crave Natural were always designed more like casually by me, my friends. We put this together without really any branding, marketing experience. And I faced a little bit of, I felt a little bit of a challenge selling the old Crave Natural products to more grocery stores. So as soon as we secure funding, I knew that I need to do a rebrand to make this product more professional.
So when you talk about the rebrand, rebranding can mean multiple things. It can mean changing colors, logos, things like that. But you actually changed the whole name. I've actually done that in the past as well. But you changed the whole name from Crave Natural to Yishi Foods. What was the actual impetus? What was it? The fact that you thought the name wasn't selling, or what?
So it's more of the packaging, but also I thought I could do better for the name. It's pretty much the whole thing. If you look at Crave Natural's website, you will see on the packaging on the cup, you don't see even the logo. Crave was printed on the cap that nobody sees when the cup is on the shelf. So we had all kinds of problems, but also, I wasn't too worried because I knew that the initial Whole Food sales was a test. I also wanted to do better on packaging. So it started as a packaging design. But this packaging project, we also talked about logo. And I thought, well, I think Cream Natural is a little generic. We have such a unique brand story. And we are selling such a unique product. I hope our name and the logo can put this whole brand story together, kind of align with our brand story. So I talked to the branding agency about my personal story, everything we talked about today. We really, dug deep into that background and then the vision for the brand and explored different options for the name. Eventually, we set a word that represents a Chinese or actual Chinese word, but easy enough for the Americans market to pronounce.
Right.
It's easy to recognize.
You got to make it easy for us to pronounce.
I also want an easy to pronounce name too. Nobody wants to say like 5 words when introduce your brand, right?
Right.
So we were branded in June 2021, almost 2 years ago. So next month is our 2-year anniversary for
awesome.
The Yishi brand.
Congrats.
Thank you. And right after the rebrand, I felt the change of, attitude of, change of direction from retailers. The packaging, the brand was drawing a lot of eyeballs. We presented the new brand for the first time in September 2021 at a trade show, Expo East. At that time, that we're just getting out of COVID, getting out of lockdown. It was the first in-person show. A lot of brands didn't show up. So I showed up, we showed up, and new brand. We got a lot of traction. And at that time, the Whole Foods global buyer also was at that show. We met a few regional buyers and some global buyers. And I believe that helped us rolling out to Whole Foods nationwide.
It just goes to show how much of life and success is, it's obviously hard work and putting yourself in the right position, but luck sometimes. Like lucky that people didn't show up, you know what I mean? And how great is that you embraced that and you were there and you showed up. It obviously shows a lot. I have a curious question about how you go about developing flavors beyond the first few batches. What's your process like for doing that?
So when we first started, we had 2 flavors that we don't have anymore. One is red bean and another one is osmanthus. So you probably know why they don't exist anymore. They're not the typical oatmeal flavor that you would think. So one thing I learned is that over time is that even though we're an Asian inspired brand, we're selling the product. It's a CPG product. We're selling to the mass market, mass consumer. It needs to be recognizable for the mass consumer for us to grow fast enough as a brand. And then, when we're big enough, we want to do niche things, then we can do the niche things. So then we picked new flavors, mango and chocolate. So for these flavors, the thought process was first we start with the flavors that are associated with or ingredients associated with my Chinese heritage, the Asian culture, but also they're recognizable for the mass market.
Right.
And I also know that tropical fruit is a popular flavor, is a high velocity flavor at retailers. This is a piece of feedback I get from a retail buyer. So we talk to retail buyers, get their feedback on their flavor suggestion. I have my own flavors, ideas, and we survey our online followers, our customers. I always think about, the keywords. If I launch a flavor, just organic clay, would that be enough searches, discovery, how that's moving? And then getting to development, we are so small and the R&D happens 5 feet from here in my kitchen.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we're launching a new product too in July, and that R&D also happened in my kitchen. So for new product, so I create the initial recipes, and we have someone on the team that has a food science background. So she helps me fine tune the recipe, and during development, once I develop the initial recipe, we look at the cost of all the ingredients in my recipe and try to manage the cost a little bit while keeping the recipe, the ingredient high quality and natural. So yeah, that's the process. And for new products, awesome. I obviously do a lot of market research. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It seems like you've taken a lot. I mean, I'm listening for, like I said, the through lines of your story. And it sounds like you've taken a lot of what you learned both in school, but obviously on the job at, BCG, and, taking that into the recipe development process, or just the company in general, but specifically the recipe development process, because I imagine for your brand, it's kind of hard. Yes. The easy answer is just market to as many Americans as you can and make it, as scalable as you can. But you also want to blend, you're trying to marry your Asian heritage and stay that unique, have that unique flavor, not just become another sugary oatmeal. You want to have, your stamp on it, but it also needs to play to the flavors of where you're selling it. Right. And so that's pretty difficult. I bet that was probably your biggest surprise as you got going, huh?
Right. That's one of the, first piece of, I guess, negative feedback I got at business school presenting this idea. So someone said, you're doing a new product, a new brand, to new product, new flavor, all at the same time. It's going to be very challenging.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So, because if you think about it, if we do just the low sugar apple cinnamon oatmeal, then that's, I believe it's going to be a lot easier than doing low sugar matcha latte oatmeal, matcha oatmeal.
Yeah. But then you're just Bob's Red Milk.
Right. Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
Right. The original, I guess, inspiration of the brand was my own story. And the whole point is just not to be another generic brand, because I personally believe a lot of categories are already very saturated, and in CPG, and a lot of innovation, in my mind, the market may not need or want. So in the oatmeal space, there is a need for innovation. So I was lucky enough to stumble into, I guess, a little white space in oatmeal. But as like you said, it's really, we're trying to do a few things at the same time. It's been challenging, but it's becoming more and more rewarding as our brand awareness grows, as our distribution grows. We see that we attract consumers for different reasons in different channels. So we sell in Whole Foods. We sell really well in Whole Foods. We just got into Sprouts. And the initial numbers look very good. So this is the natural channel. We're also in some Safeway, Albertson, so more like the supermarket, really conventional market.
Your typical grocery store,
Yeah, and that's doing really well as well. So in the food space, we really separate these two markets very clearly, because from just mass data, you see a clear different patterns. But we work in both channels at this early of the company journey, and we're starting this test with Walmart and Target, and I have some confidence that we'll do well as well. If you think about it, the flavors are innovative, dessert-like. We made our pricing affordable. We had to do some product adjustment to make sure the product is wallet friendly for the mass market. And nutrition-wise is clean label, good protein and fiber from plant-based ingredients. And we changed our formulation from stevia, using stevia, to now only using a small amount of cane sugar to cater to just really the broad market's preference. So I think, for any reason, if someone picks it up and to take a look at the grocery store, they buy it for many different reasons. And I
Many
think,
different reasons. Yeah.
yeah. So even though the challenge is multi-level, we're also at a confluence of a lot of things consumers are looking for.
Anyway. Yeah. Well, that's fascinating. It sounds like you got your hands around the data and in your mind around the data. But, one lesson I want to point out to my listeners here is that very clearly you are good at taking feedback and learning feedback and accepting feedback. Cause that's what I heard the whole story is just feedback from market research, from people telling you things. And that's not always easy for young entrepreneurs. There's a lot of ego in the young entrepreneur world. So it's a tip of the cap to you for taking that feedback and learning from that. And obviously that's sort of led to the success, or I'm sure it's a big part of the success that you guys are having. And, speaking of that success, what are your future plans? You talked about a new product coming out. You don't have to tell us. You'll have to tell me later, though, when I'm not recording. But what are your future plans with Yishi Foods, and as it stands now? Like, what do you want to do?
Sure. I can only think about the near future. So launch new product. This new product is still filling a white space in breakfast, and expanding distribution to make our great product more available to more consumers in the U.S.
Awesome.
And we're also going international. So I love to, explore the international. Yes.
Cool.
We are just starting to Southeast Asia, Singapore, Malaysia, through exporter, distributor at a premium grocery store. So they buy, not just us, the Vital Protein, Purely Elizabeth, Bob's, they buy all these American brands and sell there. So, since, that's close to home. So I'm super excited about.
You should be, because I find it fun. You should be, because everyone's listening to this whole story. It's hilarious though that they're buying American brands. You know what I mean? That you're the American brand now. You're not. Yeah. You're not. It's just kind of funny how you've been placed there. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and there's a growing trend there.
For sure. Well, super exciting. And another thing that it seems like you're doing well is sort of staying in the moment and tackling what's in front of you instead of trying to eat the elephant in one bite, as they say. Your answer there was, I want to expand my product line. I want to get into more stores. And I think that's important to kind of keep your eyes focused and on what's in front of you instead of trying to capture everything at one time. So it's awesome. All right, so we're down to our final questions. We call them the Fast Four. These are meant to be super easy answers, and it doesn't take more than a sentence or two to answer them. So I'll rattle them off real quick. So other than what you're doing right now, what other profession or business would you like to take a stab at?
Running a restaurant or bar, or running a bar.
A bar, huh? Okay.
A bar.
Okay.
Higher margin.
So you want to lose money is what you're saying?
A restaurant, maybe. I think a bar, there's a chance at
you just can't drink away the profits, they say. Okay. So don't let, I trust you'll have good inventory management. Let's say
that's more of a passion,
right.
dream.
Sure. Okay. What's something you're terrible at?
Many things. Sports overall.
Sports aren't your forte. Okay. All right. That's a good answer. What if you're reading, what book are you reading right now? Or maybe what's the last documentary you watched?
What was this book? Oh my God, I forgot the title. The Razor's Edge. Yes, The Razor's Edge is what I'm currently reading.
Nice.
Almost finished. I love.
What's that about?
It's about Somerset Maugham. So yeah, his novels are mostly very romantic. So it's about a young man leaving America, young American man leaving America, traveling around the world, leaving the opportunities to make more money or to get a good job, to go around the world, see more, explore different cultures and lives, and pursuing, I guess, coming to his own realization and self-growth. Yeah.
I
Finding that
wonder why
meaning
you.
of
I
life.
wonder why you like that book. I wonder why. I wonder why. All right. What's the last thing you can pick up your phone if you need to on this. What's the last thing you listen to on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you listen to?
Might be the happy music playlist of Chinese songs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. Well, I'll have you send me a link to it and we'll put it in the show notes so people can listen as well.
Great for dancing.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Awesome. Well, Lin, thank you for spending some time with us today. It's been super fun for me learning about your story and hope you had a good time. But where can people find you online and get in touch?
Sure. Well, to find our product online, to find Yishi online, is our website is yishifoods.com, YISHI foods.com. And if you want to find me online, you can go on LinkedIn and search my name and the company name, and then just shoot me a message.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today, and all the best and all the success with Yishi Foods.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Take care, Lin. Bye-bye.